All right, everybody, fun times here for you. So we're going to be doing this with two chickens, and I'm going to do two different recipes of roulade. The big part of this is that it's a butchery technique of getting the skin off the chicken or the turkey or the quail, whatever it is, in basically one piece. There's a number of ways to do it, and you know what? I haven't done this in 22 years. Well, hey, I really like to challenge myself and in front of you too. And you know what? A good lesson for you learning how to cook is that, yeah, even professionals fail sometimes. That said, I'm not going to fail today. I'm going to nail both of these. But these are really fun, and it's a nice way to take a really simple, rustic, ingredient, chicken, turkey, whatever it is, and add some culinary flair to it. And you know what? Cooking for your guests, like if this is going to be your Thanksgiving meal, like just go for it. You know what? Just go for it. Just go for it. Have fun. That's the most important part. Stress is the least favorite ingredient in any recipe. All right, so the very first thing you need is a very sharp knife. There's a lot of very intricate work here on this to do, so I like a butcher knives. I've got a couple of these. Both of these are very firm, non-flexible. One has this rounded edge to it, and this is really great for pork or for beef. It allows you to kind of do these long sort of symphonic conductor cuts, and perfectly useful for this, but I'm going to use this just a little bit more sort of ease of use and understanding where that blade is. So I've got two chickens over here, and these are regular old roaster chickens, and what we're going to do is we're trying to get the skin off and intact, because then what we're going to do is take the meat off the bone and do various preparations with it, and then roll it back inside, tie it up, and then roast it in various ways. So there's a lot of parts to chicken, and this is a little bit difficult, but the first thing what we're going to do is you want the skin on the breast intact, more so than the skin on the back intact. So we're going to make a cut right along the backbone. First thing to do, though, is to separate the wings, which you do. Sorry, I'll do that a little slower. So hold the wing here. You're going to separate it at that joint. Take it right there. Cut right below that joint, and then just peel it back. And literally that little knuckle piece comes right off, and you have that beautiful exposed Frenched bone. Katie is doing a lot with the camera behind, so I'm wondering if everything is okay.
It's just not zooming in properly.
Oh, well.
We can see you.
Yeah, can you see the board? Mm-hmm. All these very important things I'm doing? Yeah?
Yes.
Okay. Thanks, Katie. You're the best. Katie is our camera woman today. My partner in all things professional here. So, what we're going to do is make that incision right along the backbone, and then we're going to start coming just right underneath the skin and peeling it back as you go. And now I'm only using about that much of the knife. Okay, I'm not going all the way in, because then you're going to puncture and come through. So a lot of this can be done simply by pulling. And you want to do as much of that as possible, because guess what? You're not going to puncture that skin by pulling it. And when you get up to that wing, you just kind of come around it and then pull it off. Side. And so again, I'm just using the knife to kind of release before I pull. I'm just going to roll this over. I need to make just a circular cut around the skin at the base of the leg. It's just to free it up. Sort of push that leg right through that hole. This is fun. This is really fun. Man, I used to do this all the time. I used to teach in a graduate position the butchery class at the Culinary Institute of America. And yeah, I worked under these incredible chefs, Chef Tom Sneller and Hans Siebold, old German, Swiss, Austrian trained butchers. Man, did they know their stuff. And it was so cool, but I used to do this all the time for chefs that were wanting to do it in their classes, etc. And I would probably do 20 or 30 of these a day. Anyway, but as you see, I flipped it back over. So coming on the other side of that backbone, working towards the center of the bird, and sort of pushing that wing through, separating out there. Now, back in my heyday, geez, I would have done this in 20 seconds maybe. So this is not hard. It's just a thing to take your time with until you learn how to do it. And it's really quite easy because the skin kind of wants to come off, if you will. And so all you're doing is sort of enabling it to do so. All right, and there you have a fully skinless whole chicken. And what else do you have? You have a whole chicken skin. Look at that. Isn't that cool? It's even got little leg holes, like little bloomers. That's cool, right? So there is your roll. So you've got the legs there. And what we're going to do is I'll trim off just some of these big caps of fat. And I'm going to use these in one of the recipes. But so there we go. And what we're going to do is use the skin this way, lengthwise. And I've got a couple of little holes here in the skin, and that's totally fine. But we're going to use the skin lengthways like that and then roll it over. So, do you want to do this again? Do you want to watch it again? Katie, do you want to watch it again? Do you think it's a good idea? Always, she says. All right.
Make sure we like this. Right, go ahead.
So again, you just come right under that joint at a slight angle and then hold the bottom bone and rotate off. If that little white knuckle piece ends up on here, you did it wrong. It's fine. All you have to do then is kind of snap it off like a beer can. Let's see, I'm going to go around the legs so I can release those when need be. Come right down the side. And again, once you get it started, you can largely just pull the skin off. So this is something to do, obviously, way ahead of having guests over. It's something you need to focus on. It's something you should have fun on. So give yourself the time to do it. And these dishes are best if prepared a day ahead, mostly so that they're ready to cook day of. I gotta say, also, the sounds of this are not the best sounds in the kitchen, for what it's worth. So again, you can see I'm really just pulling all this off. Oh, messed up a little bit there. That's okay. So on the last time I started again at the back and kind of came this way. This time I just went all the way around. So there you go, another boneless, skinless, or skinned bird. And there you go, 2 leg holes, 2 wing holes, and a nice long sheet. All right, so what we are now going to do is take the meat off the bone. Now, to butcher a chicken, the best thing to do with the legs, snap them off at the joint, come in from behind, just get right under that thigh muscle. As soon as you get through that joint, that little white cap, pull. Because there's a little piece of meat called the oyster that sits right in there inside the hip socket. And if you pull, it comes right off. If you snap that joint and then cut all the way through, you're going to cut that off because it rests below the joint. So you rip those 2 off, For the sake of time here, I'm just going to take the breasts, which you come straight down either side of that cartilage on the backbone, shift the angle of your knife, come straight out. There you go, beautiful breast with the tenderloin attached. That is proper butchery. You don't want that to come off. We're going to take it off, so it doesn't matter if you don't get that, but you know, if you're doing something, practice, get it right. All right, so there's the two breasts. I'm just going to set these aside just for the sake of time with what we're doing here. So in order to get the meat off the legs, come around. Is that me? No, it's good. I'm not bleeding. And just on the bone, just pull it out. Cut through to take the thigh bone out, come down either side of the leg bone, just pull to expose the meat, and use the knife to hold while you pull, because the advantage there is that you end up pulling all of that tendon tissue much out of the meat. And the way that we're cooking this, we don't want that tendon tissue in there, so we're just gonna trim that off. All right, so I'm going to trim the rest of these. I'm just gonna cut this in half, make it maybe a little easier. I'm gonna trim up the rest of these and I'll be right back with you to start making our dishes. So I've boned out the thighs, gotten the breasts off. These little giblet bags, use the whole animal. It's just the only respectful thing to do. So because I have a couple of dishes going here and I can use, these are the giblets from two birds. I'm just going to take those, the hearts, I'll put those into there as well. Oh, there's a lot of giblets, oddly so, and no livers. So that's weird. I was kind of hoping for some livers, but there you go. The necks used for stock, whatever. Go crabbing with them, use them as lobster bait if you're up here. Do your thing. All right, so the first thing we're going to do is the porchetta dish. Now the porchetta dish is going to be the breasts sliced down so that they fit in. They're going to have the thighs sliced down so that there's not big chunks of meat, but rather there's sort of layers here. And I'm going to toss this all in, yay, a mixture of fennel seeds, excuse me, fennel seeds, chili pepper, red wine vinegar, lots and lots of garlic, sage, and rosemary, both fresh. Now I've let this sit for a little while. I mixed it together because I wanted those fennel seeds. Also, there's black pepper in here to soften a little bit from the juice of the garlic as well as from the vinegar. So take this. I will take the tenderloin off here, and that's probably a good piece to use. Let's see if there's any little bone chips. Do that. And what I'm doing now is a technique called butterflying. So basically just cutting into a even thickness sheet, right? And it's okay if it's not entirely perfect. That's okay, because we're going to kind of mash it all together. So I'm going to do two breasts here. And you want to start at the thicker side and sort of work over and out, and then I will actually butterfly it in this direction as well. A bit. And again, this is all going to get rolled up. So it doesn't quite matter how it is. All right, I'm going to take two legs, and any pieces of fat is fine. It's because you're going to add a whole lot of fat to this anyway, so. And fat's delicious, and it's the season, right? I mean, hey, it's the time. Let's enjoy ourselves. All right. Okay, so these are my drumsticks here. Those were the two thighs. With the drumsticks, you want to be wary of any of that that's tendon tissue down there. That's just not, it's fine, but it's not going to cook at the same time, and it will give you some texture. And you can just basically peel those out or cut out that little section and throw that into your stock pot. And you can see I'm not haphazardly doing this, but just pretty quick. This is not precision. Okay. I'm also going to salt the chicken directly. I have a little bit of salt in the garlic mixture as well. And I'm going to use most of the garlic mixture on the chicken. And I'll just wash my hands. That's fine. Now, the longer you let this marinate, yep, the tastier it will be. But you can do this and just immediately throw it into the preparation, or up to a day is great. All right, so you want to take the outside of the skin. This would be the inside, and you want it inside up, outside down. And for this, I am going to take the leg hole, and what I want to do is bring, Katie, is that in the right part of the cutting board for them to see?
Yeah, we can see that.
So the leg hole there, and I want to free the skin so that it comes into the center more. Okay? So here's the leg hole. Here is the edge of the breast skin, right? So where I want to go is right about there, so that it comes into the middle. Now, the way that I cut it right there, do not cut it that way because you will cut yourself. I'm very proud of myself that I didn't. But that's basically what we're trying to do, is get this nice sort of wide sheet, right? All right. Rest of that garlic, final deliciousness. This is going to be, once it's rolled up, that's going to be the top. That's what's, sort of the presentation side. So focus this smear in that area. I'm also practicing very poor sanitation right here, okay? But it's what it is in order to make it work for the camera, because I didn't think through that. So I'm going to wash the outside of this later, okay? Don't do what I do. At least I acknowledge it, right? Okay. And then you want to have a bit of a strategy for this. Mixing the dark meat with the breast meat as well, so it kind of lays in there evenly. And you want it to be smaller than the skin, because that skin is going to, as it cooks, it's going to pull back and it's going to shrink. So again, very poor sanitation, but I'm aware of it. So, all right, and then working either direction, whichever way you're most comfortable with, you want to just roll it, and you want to pull the skin up so that it's not going in so much, but you're sort of pulling it down, and then tuck it in under. You ever tucked your kid in bed at night? Yeah, that's one of my favorite things to do, is to like tuck him in and like get it right under him. All right, and if there's any loose ends like that, consider making, what your presentation is. So if there's a fold that you can put under, then that's the way to do it. Always kind of keep pushing it back together. All right, so there is going to be our presentation side. Katie, would you cut me a length of this twine so that I don't have to throw it all out when I'm done? Please. Hey everybody, this is Katie.
What do you want?
That's great. That's plenty. Okay. All right, so I got butcher's twine. I'm not going to be able to show you the knot as best as, say, YouTube could or whatever, but it's a basic slip knot. A little bit of length, about 4 inches more. Pull it back, holding up with this hand. Make a little sort of triangle there, and what you're doing, holding the end here, and you're pushing it down through that area right here, through your index finger, using your index finger to keep that hole open. And you do that twice, and there's your slip knot. And then that's all you do. And then to lock it, loop around your fingers, use those fingers to grab that end. There you go. It is locked. Slice it there. Again, you want to go about 1 inch or so in, one loop, back through there, another loop. Tighten, but don't tighten too much. Loop and lock. All right, I'm gonna finish this up and then we'll meet you over at the stove and we'll get ready to cook this. Okay, so with the second preparation, this is going to be a mousseline. So this is a force meat, and I'm going to use those giblets, the heart, all of the dark meat, trimmed of any sinew tissue, any bones, whatever you got in there. And then cut up generally into just small pieces. We're going to throw this whole thing right into that Roboku over there. And by the way, this is my grandmother's Roboku. It's very dirty. It's very old. I think it's from 1963 or so, because I broke the bowl at one point and I had to try and replace it. And yeah, it needs to be cleaned. But you know what, man? One of the best things about holidays is that we come together with generations, right? Isn't that the coolest? So I've got about a pound or so, and that's what I'm going to use. Fitted with a regular blade. Throw all that in there. And again, food safety wise, I am just doing this for camera. So I'm going to touch things with chicken hands just to save some time for you. So again, please be aware of that. Because it's me cooking here, I've got fennel seeds that I'm going to add in. It's about a tablespoon or so. And then what we do is just blend it up. Stopping every now and then to push it down. What we're trying to do is to make a very smooth paste. And you'll see that any of those big pieces of sinew or so like that, that's why you want to take them out as much as possible. But you know what? If you add a couple in there, it's okay. All right. Thing I forgot to add here is a good pinch of salt. Salt is going to be very important in this because that salt draws out the proteins, and those proteins are going to be the binder in this. Baby, would you get me an egg, please? I forgot all about the egg. So the next thing we do is add more protein in the form of an egg white. Thank you. Appreciate it. And normally I'd save the yolk, yes, but we're just trying to be mindful of time here. Now that yolk will help it, or that the white will help it puree down. Once you're there, I'm going to add a whole lot of tarragon because I love me some chicken and tarragon. I think it's just one of the greatest flavors there is. I've also got a little bit of chili flake here. This is a Korean chili flake. Remind me to wash this bag too, Katie. I'm just gonna add a whole bunch in there because I like chilies. And then with that, I've got some heavy cream. Now you can use half and half, you can use light cream, but the key here is fat. Because what we're doing is we're making an emulsion. We've got protein in the chicken and in the egg white, and that's all broken down into a paste. And into this, we are going to puree and emulsify the cream, the fat of that cream. In a slow, steady whistle. Stopping once or twice to just mix it all in. Now, technically, when you're making a mousseline, everything should be as cold as possible. People will recommend chilling your bowl down, chilling your blade, chilling your meat, etc., even putting it in the freezer for half an hour. Yeah, sure. Go ahead and do that. Or don't. It's fine. You can hear the Robocoup as this thing begins to come together. You can hear the Robocoup changing sound. And that's what you want, is a puree that has all the ingredients incorporated, but that's not sticky tacky, that I can run my finger across it and it comes right off. If it's too meaty, if it comes off as a paste, then you haven't added quite enough cream. And about a pound of meat, about a cup of cream. All right. And there you go. You have this chicken mousseline. Perfect. There you go. Sorry. Okay. Next thing to do is to... Again, we're going to lay out our skin. I'm going to cut the leg holes, again, to give us the most coverage. I'm going to trim off just a little bit of this fat here. And I didn't do this one as well as I had done the first one, or maybe this was the first one and I got better. Anyway, it doesn't matter. But what we're going to do is, again, butterfly the breast out. And the breast is going to go on the outside to sort of hold the mousseline in. Now, you could do it the other way around too if you wanted to. So with the breast, I am going to butterfly it very thin, probably about a third of an inch, half-inch thin. It's okay if it's sheathed. Lay it out for even coverage. Now, in fact, I'm probably not going to use all of this breast meat, so you'll have a little bit of leftovers. If you're doing a turkey, especially, or you've got a lot of breast meat to it, you're not going to use all of it. So expect that, and you know what? You can just use it for another purpose. All right. So I used about 2/3 of breast here. And then take a mousseline. I'm going to add a little bit of olive oil, as what I want to do is help keep that skin off of the mousseline on the bottom side and help it crisp up. And, you know, I should have salted this too, salted the meat, but I salted the mousseline, so I'm just going to say that that was an error. Now this is a little trickier to roll up because it's a little softer, but once you get it into form, you can manipulate it quite a bit, but you have this nice, beautiful little roulade. So I'm going to tie this one up, and then, in fact, this time, we're going to meet you over at the stove, and we're going to cook them. Okay, cool. All right, so now I'm going to cook them. Now, chances are you're not making both of these dishes at once, so, right? But, hey, this is a class. We're trying to do something fun. I'm challenging myself, and there we go. So when I tied up the mousseline one, I first tied a long slip knot all the way across the length of it. Exact same knot, same thing, and it wasn't very tight, but it's just to hold the length of it in place while I then go over with the lateral ties. You can do the same with the porchetta version, not really needed though. When you are getting this off of the cutting board, you've done so much work to make this thing so beautiful, right? There's so much detail in it. Don't screw it up when you pick it up off the board. Use a spatula. You know, use 2 of these even. If you need be, come under it, lift it up, put it on a sheet tray. Now there's a couple ways you can cook these. You could sous vide these and then sear them. You could sear them and then roast them, but what I'm going to do is roast them and then sear them. So I want them basically fully cooked, and then I'm going to roll them in hot fat to caramelize that out and crisp that outside skin. I will, however, use a little bit of olive oil or butter. Now, especially with the porchetta, it's not porchetta. Porchetta is roasted pork, but that flavor profile, there's already olive oil inside of it. So with the mousseline, you might consider just using room temperature butter and slathering that over. And you notice that I used a good bit of oil there, and that's okay, because it's the holidays and you're going to get delicious little crackling crispies underneath. Preheated oven, 375. Just throw them in there. You know what? I'm not going to do that because I have a fancy new tool that I just got that I'm going to use. It's a probe thermometer. I got it set to 155, which is where I want it to be done. I'm going to pull that out. So I'm going to put that all the way into the very center of the roulade. This is fun. This is cool. And this thing sits outside of the oven, apparently. I don't know. We're experimenting together here, folks. So 375. Sorry. Hey, how cool is that? All right. I'll see you in like 40 minutes or so. Cool. All right, so if you were watching the actual live event, you know that I started off with a video of these coming out of the oven, so I've already sliced into them, but what I did for it was, so I took them out of the oven at 155. Now the reason for that is that the density of this, the carryover cooking is gonna take it up to about 163 or so, and that's where I want it, so that the breast meat is still super moist, and the dark meat is very moist, but just the whole thing is, no, it's perfectly cooked, really. And that little thermometer thing that I had, it worked out really well. So what I did is when I got them out of the oven, just snipped off the ties and very carefully removed those. The last thing you want to do at this point is take all of this hard work and just haphazardly kind of rip off, you know, one of those pieces of twine and have the whole skin rip, right? Just take your time with it, snip it, and then pull it out from under it while kind of holding it with your fingers. I then just sliced it in half, and admittedly, I've already eaten a whole lot of it because they were both really good. So here's the roulade. You can see the skin got a little bit crispy, a little bit brown, and that was just doing it in the oven. I turned the broiler on. I have a dual function oven where I can broil bake. But if you don't have that, then pull it out about 150 then, and then turn your broiler up to high, and then put it back in to finish cooking to get some of that brownness. You're not really looking for super crispy. You're just looking for caramelization and for some crust, but really a flavor punctuation. And you can see that the breast meat is wrapped around. On the bottom there is the that mousseline, that force meat. It's beautiful with all that tarragon in there, which is huge, huge flavor, perfectly spiced, well seasoned. And then for the porchetta one, the chicken in the style of porchetta, this one turned out even better. And this is my flavor profiles. I'm an Italian cook, just in the way that I like to eat and the way that I conceive of food. So this is really Frenchy and fun to do, but quite honestly, it's rich, but really fun to make and fun to eat too. But look at that, it's just, I mean, gorgeous. All those sort of the butterflied pieces of breast down there mixed with the dark meat. You can see those sort of bands of the marinade, that garlic in there, which is perfectly cooked, perfectly perfuming and seasoning it. That red wine vinegar is really great because it takes away some of the richness, but cuts against it. But you can see how perfectly, wonderfully greasy this is. And that's what this dish is. This is not a light dish. It's not an over-the-top, crazy, heavy dish either. But when you slice it, in order to slice a long, thin knife and make as few motions as you can. You're not trying to slice it super, super thin. You want to do about a 1/2 inch thick at minimum. Once you break through the skin, then it's holding the piece together to give it some structural integrity. Slice down through. And then just lay them down, and there you go. And you can kind of reform them a little bit if need be. And then at the bottom of the roasting pan, yeah, look at that. Yep, drizzle some of that over the top, and you're gonna be a happy person. And your guests are gonna know that you love them. Cheers.